Hey there, folks. This is Pop Culture. I'm Alex Pop. Hope you all are doing well this fine Jurassic June, a month of celebration that's going to have to proceed a few extra days with the release of Jurassic World Rebirth on July 2nd. Now, I've spoken before about things that have hindered my excitement for this new movie, even as a die-hard Jurassic Park fan. These include the seemingly rushed production, the plot being a trip to yet another island, plus the plain fact that it's coming off the heels of Dominion. But in the last few months, with all the new details and footage that have poured in, I have grown more excited for this movie than I was. Though it was after one or two TV spots that I decided I've seen enough footage. How much of the river attack have they shown us already? I know they're trying to hook us with a famous chapter from the novel that didn't make it into the first movie, but this is starting to remind me of when the marketing for Fallen Kingdom gave away too much of too many big moments. So I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. Still, I have generally liked what I've seen from the trailers for Rebirth, though mind you, Jurassic World trailers, they always look cool. It's not hard to have me in awe when more dinosaurs are getting a realistic on-screen depiction, but when it comes to the full movie, it's going to take a bit more than that. With that said, most of the dinosaurs are looking fabulous, from the majestic Titanosaurs to the new bulky T-Rex, and I even like the aquatic Spinosaurs. Yeah, I would have preferred to see the return of the JP3 version, but these are pretty beasts too. And though we haven't seen any clear footage of the Velociraptors yet, we have gotten some CG renderings for them, and I am really digging this new design. It's like the Lost World and JP3 variants rolled into one. The only one I'm not really a fan of is the Quetzalcoatlus. While it looks cool on its own, I don't think anyone would have ever recognized it as Quetzalcoatlus. In fact, I can't think of any kind of pterosaur that has such an unusual crest on its beak. It's really perplexing to me that they went with this after they had a pretty spot-on design in Dominion. Now, in the second trailer, we hear a line from Martin Krebs, the man on the expedition representing a pharmaceutical company called Parker Genix. He says that 24 species are living on this island, which could be a rough estimate, perhaps anywhere from 21 to 26. As of right now, I count 10 that have been confirmed. This includes the Ankylosaurus, which has been seen on various pieces of advertising like cardboard theater standees. But the one that's been rumored for a while that I really want to see, Maiasaura. I have been wanting this dinosaur to show up in a Jurassic Park movie for a long time now. And I believe the first word of it came from the same source that said Aquilops was going to be in this movie, which we now know it is. But since Maiasaura has been nowhere in any of the marketing materials to date, I'm kind of despairing of it having a role equivalent to the Corythosaurus in Jurassic Park 3, just barely noticeable. Fingers crossed we'll at least see one tending to her nest, as we've always known Maiasaura for. It's in the name, Good Mother Lizard. But what really stood out to me about that line from Krebs is that he says 24 species have survived in this location alone, which seems to suggest that it is indeed not the only place in the world where dinosaurs are still thriving. So this potentially leaves room open in the future for exploring life with dinosaurs on some parts of the mainland. Although we really shouldn't have to wait anymore because that's what Dominion was supposed to be about. Now let me get into what I'm pretty 50-50 on at the moment. Mutants. The Distortus Rex, which has been described as a T-Rex designed by H.R. Geiger that had relations with a Rancor, and the Mutodons, a freak cross between pterosaur and raptor. On one hand, I'm just thinking, aren't real dinosaurs more than enough? Why do we need to bring Cloverfield monsters into this? But I must admit, the designs of these mutants are pretty cool, and if these are products of an age of inexperience in cloning, then I do kind of like the idea of not everything turning out properly, and that most of these genetic abominations are unable to function, but maybe one or two of them manage to squeak through, enter the D-Rex and Mutodons. Although what I find most confusing is that in a magazine article from Empire a month ago, we're told that the opening scene of the movie featuring scientists being attacked by their monstrous creation is set in the year 2010, when Jurassic World was open. And while this does explain the modern appearance of the architecture, it seemingly contradicts the voiceover in the first trailer when Zora Bennett says that this island was the research facility for the original Jurassic Park. I took this to mean that the Distortus Rex was an accident from the earliest days of cloning in the 1980s, but that's apparently not the case. So my suspicion is that voiceover from the trailer is a piece of false advertising to make audiences think Jurassic Park as opposed to Jurassic World. It wouldn't be the first time they pulled that. All over the marketing for Dominion was voiceover from Ellie Sattler saying humans and dinosaurs can't coexist, a line totally absent from the movie that was clearly meant to make us think we were in for a very different movie than what we got. So I guess the idea is that the Distortus Rex was the first hybrid they wound up with before they eventually got the Indominus Rex. But shouldn't InGen scientists have had a good deal more experience in 2010? And if the D-Rex has been left to roam free on this island for 17 years, how are the Titanosaurs thriving so well as to form that massive herd? So going into this movie, I do have plenty of questions, another one of which would be why we're only now finding out about this island. But that's a good thing. I want to go into a movie with questions, rather than already having 80% of the answers, like with Fallen Kingdom. And something else about this movie that grabbed me comes from an unlikely source, a pizza box I got from 7-Eleven. While it was pretty obvious from the trailers, it confirms the three biggest creatures of the land, sea, and air whose DNA needed to be acquired. Of land, it's the Titanosaurus, of sea, the Mosasaurus, and of the air, Quetzalcoatlus. Their DNA supposedly holds the key to a cure for heart disease. What caught my attention is another small piece of text nestled between the three boxes that contain the words land, sea, and air. While you probably can't see it clearly, it reads, "Conquer every domain." What I take this to allude to is that this collection of DNA will be emblematic of man attempting to control nature by taking on the kings of all three domains. And this will tie into what we've been told about Zora Bennett, that she will at a point begin questioning just how ethical what they're doing is. I'm totally behind that. It heavily suggests that this movie will move past the issue of human exploitation of dinosaurs and take Jurassic Park back to its man versus nature roots. It is weird that I'm getting far more Dominion themes from this movie than I did the one that's actually called Dominion. But now, allow me to get into the detail about Rebirth that really had me perk up. At the risk of sounding like a broken record to those who have been following me for at least 3 years, one of the most disappointing things about Dominion was the severe lack of closure that it brought to its main characters, new and old. We had really interesting arcs set up in Fallen Kingdom for the new characters that were just abandoned, and in the case of Maisie Lockwood, straight up retcon to create a trillion plot holes. They and the old cast were all wasted on a storyline that had little, if anything, to do with dinosaurs. Now, to zero in on Alan Grant, there was so much it could have done but didn't do with his character. But one of the few things that I will always give Dominion credit for is what it did do with him. How he witnesses the dinosaurs at Biosyn that have purified genomes, making him realize how his life's work as a paleontologist is becoming less and less relevant, and he ultimately lets go of the profession before he loses any more time he can have with Ellie. But even yet, his arc still felt incomplete. He never finds any new purpose for his dinosaur expertise in this new world, which you'd think he'd be a great benefit for. In fact, he really doesn't serve any purpose to the plot in the long run. I was left thinking, what's he going to do with life after paleontology? How will he, in his words, evolve? So for a good while with this new movie, I was thinking to myself, okay, all that closure you wanted for those characters is out of the question. This is going to be a completely new roster of characters who have no connections with anyone previously established, so you're just going to have to take that for what it is. However, this brings us to the number one aspect of this movie, for which I'm still keeping my expectations in check, but that I am really holding out hope for. This is in regards to Jonathan Bailey's character, Dr. Henry Loomis, a name that I'm still trying to get used to. I mean, you call him Dr. Loomis, you think Halloween. You call him Dr. Henry, and you think Dr. Henry Wu. Although I will say, I do like the realism of two characters in a film universe having the same name, which Jurassic Park is not a stranger to. We have had two Dennises in the series. But I digress. In a Variety article that was released along with the first trailer, Jonathan Bailey stated that his character has history with Alan Grant, and he has always wanted to make him proud. What exactly is this connection? Bailey says you have to see the movie to find out. Just please tell me he's not the kid Grant scared with the raptor claw. There was already a popular fan theory going around that Owen Grady was that boy, even though they look nothing alike. And frankly, I just don't get why everyone seems to think that we need to catch up with that kid. Furthermore, don't quote me on this, but if I remember correctly, when Whit Hertford was asked on Twitter if he would return to play Mr. 6-Foot Turkey if given the chance, he replied with an emphatic yes. Although I can't go back and verify this, as it appears that Whit Hertford has shut down his Twitter or X account. And while it's true that he hasn't been actively working in Hollywood for many years, wouldn't Universal still think about giving him a call since he's best known for that part? My guess is Henry Loomis is just a paleontologist who has been working alongside Alan Grant for some time now, and I feel that this could potentially forge a path to bringing full closure to the man. The thing I really like that this movie is carrying over from Dominion is that this is now a world where paleontology has become passé. This is made clear with the beginning of the first trailer with that museum closing down its dinosaur exhibit, and the When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth banner being taken down in front of the T-Rex skeleton, which is a mundane echo of it fluttering down triumphantly in front of the live roaring T-Rex. I must point out, though, what an outrageous coincidence it is that that museum has the exact same design of banner as the one in the old JP Visitor Center. You couldn't even say it was inspired because that version of the park never opened. But regardless, this clearly plays into what director Gareth Edwards has said about Henry Loomis. He's out of his depth in terms of the military element of the mission. He's very comfortable on digs and expeditions, but not the life and death risks that Kincaid and Zora are getting into. That description right there is very Grant-esque. It's the astronomer having to become the astronaut. And it has me thinking, could it be that Grant has started some kind of network of dinosaur experts to help the public deal with these creatures wherever they're still turning up in the world? Perhaps he offered the job opportunity to any of his fellow paleontologists who were still working with him when he shut down his dig site. Henry Loomis is one of the people who accepted, and this is his very first mission out in the thick of it. What would absolutely make this movie for me is if, and this is a big if, mind you, Alan Grant has a full-on appearance at the end, similar to the OG Ghostbusters at the end of Afterlife, if he was leading the cavalry that comes in and saves everyone from the island. Sort of a full circle moment from Jurassic Park 3, the rescued becoming the rescuer. Will something like that actually happen? I'm not counting on it. Because if Grant is in Rebirth, then why not just say so? It's not like it hasn't been only 3 years since we last saw him. Also, when Sam Neill was asked by Forbes if he had had any talks to play Grant again in this movie, he replied that he believes, in terms of running from dinosaurs, that's all for him. But then again, that's not an uncommon decoy. Andrew Garfield claimed that he wasn't in No Way Home. Liam Neeson and Ian McDiarmid both claimed that they weren't in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. And we do know Sam Neill is still up for monster movies in some capacity, as he has been cast in the next Godzilla and Kong movie. Plus, it would be a nice courtesy to give him a small part, knowing that battle that he had with stage 3 blood cancer. Again, I'm not going to count on it, but even if Grant doesn't make a physical appearance in this movie, I do now see a ray of hope that there could be true fulfillment to what he says to Lex in the first movie. That if he can't dig up dinosaur bones anymore, he'll just have to evolve too. If David Koepp can write the final result in a way that makes it feel like not just a victory for Henry Loomis, but also a victory for Alan Grant, that would leave me one happy Jurassic fan. Even if the rest of the movie is just a basic, we're trapped and we gotta escape adventure like Jurassic Park 3, that kind of resolution would make me supremely glad that this movie happened. Well, we're just 3 weeks out from release, and I will be seeing the movie opening day in RPX 3D. I have to go as big as I can when it's not being shown in IMAX. Thanks a lot, Superman. Now, if this movie is bad, I'll be over it fine. This won't be another Dominion situation where I didn't feel like going back to the theater for a while. I don't see myself ever getting that disappointed in a movie again. But believe me, I would love nothing more than to get on camera in front of every one of you with the enthusiastic review that I wanted to give Dominion. Whatever happens, you can count on me to be 100% honest. So what are your thoughts? How do you feel about Jurassic World Rebirth at the moment? And what do you think is Henry Loomis's connection with Alan Grant? Whatever it be, let me know in the comments. That's a wrap. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and share, subscribe for more. This is Pop Culture. I'm Alex Pop.